So today I'm excited. I'm going to have Kelsey on the podcast. She's the host of the Kingdom Fit Moms, and her background is a physician assistant. And we're just going to be talking today about breaking the chains of obesity and really changing our health legacy. We're going to be talking about why obesity runs in families and what we can do to start to break that, how we can start being intentional and holding ourselves accountable. We're going to be talking about the blue zones and insulin resistance. And before we get started, I just encourage you that if you're feeling stuck in your health journey and you're feeling like maybe you need some extra support and accountability, to reach out to me to set up a free call. In this free call, we're just going to discuss your goals, your struggles, what's going on, what is that missing piece, how can we get you to develop some consistency so you can reach those health goals, how can we get you to break down patterns that aren't serving you. So check the link down below where you can set up that free call. Hi friends, and welcome to the Healthy Beyond 40 show. I'm Michele, mama of 4 and military wife, and I'm passionate about helping women get healthy from the inside out so they can feel better and live their best life. Do you feel like you're struggling to lose weight and get in shape? If you're ready to develop healthier habits, exercise consistently, and lose weight sustainably, then you're in the right place. I combine my expertise from my doctorate in physical therapy to my experience as a health coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher to bring you actionable steps for a healthy lifestyle. No magic pill here, so lace up those shoes and get moving. Hi, Kelsey, and welcome to the podcast today. I'm excited to have you on here and to just share your knowledge. So first, just tell us a little bit more about you and your life.
Hey, thanks for having me, Michele. Yes, so Kelsey Wickenhauser. I am a physician assistant turned Christian health coach. I've been practicing medicine for over a decade, and in 2020, I started helping moms to lose weight for the last time. But we live out in the country in Illinois and have a lot of fun exploring. We have about 40 acres and we homeschool just like you guys do. My kids are 7, 5, and 3. So it's a lot of fun in this phase of life. But yeah, I feel so blessed that I was able to step away from working in the clinic to be able to really do what I'm passionate about and help women get to the root of why they're struggling. So thanks for having me and having this discussion today.
Yeah, and I find it so interesting. I've worked with a few PAs or NPs or even nurses, and a lot of them struggle with taking care of themselves when they're working. They're like, they don't even want to drink enough water because they don't have enough time to go to the bathroom between patients. And it's so interesting. In our medical field, our healthcare professionals don't even have this basics of really taking care of themselves, and that environment isn't for that either.
Yeah, that's very common. I work in prompt care sometimes, and those shifts can be 11 or 12 hours, and sometimes it's hard to take a break. So I get that.
Yeah. And so share a few things that you are doing for your health or your self-care right now. I know you're a busy mom. Those little ones just take up more time too, and running your own business. So what are you doing to stay on top of your health and your self-care?
Yeah. One of the things I just recently did, because we are shifting seasons from summer to fall, and I spent a lot of time with my schedule, which I think is such great self-care, to actually look at the time that I have to spend. And then I make it a non-negotiable to exercise. And so that has been, I try to get that done in the morning, spend some time in the Word and drink a lot of water. And I feel like if I do those things, then I have a lot more energy throughout the day to do all the other things that I need to do. So those would probably be the main ones. And I would say the other thing is our garden is doing fairly well this year. And so spending a lot of time cultivating that and harvesting and enjoying lots of real food that is growing in our land, which is really fun.
Yeah, that's nice. I love how you brought up the schedule, because some of us are just more inclined towards organization and planning, but I find those that aren't, it's really what they're lacking. And it's so important to really be able to schedule things out to see what you actually have time for. And do you have some buffer time so things aren't packed? because most of us sometimes will have just too much on our plate until we really sit down and look at our schedule. We may not see that there's just too much. We need to take something off. We need to, ask our husband to do something, or we need to give a little more responsibility to our kids or hire some help or whatever that is.
Yes, we hire a house cleaner to come every other week, and it's like the best self-care ever because I don't have to scrub my shower and I can do something else. So it's lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's sort of dive into the topic today. So we're going to be talking about breaking the generational chains of obesity and really changing your health legacy. So first, tell us, why does obesity run in families?
Yeah, that's a multifaceted question, and I'm not sure I can answer it completely, but I have been working in medicine now for over a decade, and I think this is obvious, but I'm just going to say that when moms are healthy, our kids have such a better chance to come out on top, right? And to understand real food and healthy habits. And I think it's really interesting to consider in scripture how it talks about how the iniquities of the fathers, they extend to the third and the fourth generation, but generational blessings extend. And when we follow the way that we're designed to live, it can extend for thousands of generations. So I think this is kind of weighty, I guess, pun intended, to consider that our choices, they can lead to strongholds, and the places where we struggle, they can get passed down. And I don't know if you've looked into epigenetics much or if you've gone down that study at all, but we have certain genes that are transcribed and passed down, and then depending on our lifestyle and the way that we think in our environment, all of that helps determine if those genetics become active or if they become our realities. So that's good news, actually, that we can break those patterns that run in our families and then learn to teach our families to heal as well. Like if you have, I guess I love to think about it this way, that our decision to get well can affect our great great grandchildren. And it's powerful to consider our health legacy in many ways, but especially in this conversation about breaking those chains of obesity. When I have somebody in the clinic, I ask them their family history, right? And if there's diabetes or depression or cancer in your family, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that you're just doomed to have it. And in fact, most disease is actually lifestyle preventable and reversible. So if we're willing to break free from our man-made food system and our sedentary individualistic lives and then lean into a different way of doing life, then we can totally break this chain. So I hope that through this conversation that we feel empowered, that we can take back what the enemy has stolen.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you brought up the epigenetics. So our genes being turned on and off. And I've actually done genetic testing myself on me, and I have obesity genes. And I have not been obese or overweight, but I have had times, like when I was a kid, I used to do gymnastics. And so it was intense training 3 days a week. When I ended up stopping that, I started gaining weight because I wasn't moving and exercising. There was a point when my husband kept buying me cheesecake because I enjoyed it. Like I just wanted to get it every once in a while, but he like wanted to show his love and get me like way more than I needed each week, like a piece every night. I started to gain weight. So I'm not immune to that, but those genes might be in me, but I can change that by what I am doing or not doing. So I think that's important for everyone to really hear, is that lifestyle is huge. And just because people in our family have something doesn't mean that we will. My sister was also a pediatric nurse practitioner, and she would say families would come in and some of these kids were obese, and she would try to talk to the parents, and they just really didn't want to hear anything. They weren't ready to hear it. So we can start to change that by being open. And change is hard. It's hard to change our food habits, our lifestyle habits, but we can do that.
Yes, definitely.
And so why is it our job, us as an individual? Most people are moms on my podcast, but not everybody. But how can it be our job to start to break this chain of poor health?
Yeah, I think that when we're talking about our own health journey, nobody else is going to fight for this except for us, right? And then if you have kids, it is a responsibility to help them to develop identity and who they are and the things that are going to last beyond when they leave your home. And I think that it's great to look at blue zones where areas of the world where they make the healthy choice the easy choice. They're eating real food in season, they're moving naturally, they live in community, they have a sense of purpose, and they're not filling their homes with tempting man-made junk and expecting to succeed. And we can do the same thing for our families. We can change the culture in our homes. But I think it's also, there's a practical side, there's a like changing our habits and changing the fruit of our lives. But there's also the reality that if we've struggled as moms, or if you have influence on other people in your life, if we've been struggling with weight for years and years, then there's often more heart healing or mindset work and probably some counseling and coaching that needs done. So don't only look at the fruit of your life, the struggle with weight. We have to go deeper to figure out why that struggle exists and do some work to heal from that. For example, I've worked with women who have a history of sexual abuse, and they may have gained weight after that abuse and they've created inner vows at that time saying like being a healthy weight isn't safe. And so every time they start to get to a certain weight, they'll self-sabotage because they vowed to themselves, even subconsciously, that I don't want to be attractive. Or there's been women who have a sense of loneliness in their childhood and they may have never developed a good coping mechanism for that. And so eating became an easy way to get that dopamine hit because that wound was never really healed. So weight, a chronic struggle with weight, it's not usually just about calories in, calories out. There's usually deeper things within us that need healed. So my point in telling you all that is for anyone listening, like if you really want to create a generational blessing of good health in your family, then it's most likely going to take a season of counseling or coaching or really digging into your own junk. We all have it. And then healing so that you can pour out of a full and clean vessel. And it's not really fun to do this work, but it's so worth it. And it will change your life and your legacy forever when you do this work.
Yeah, I love that. Healing the deeper wounds. And I think sometimes we don't even recognize those deeper wounds. And on a lot of health coaching calls that I do, people will talk about, I'm eating more on the weekends than I want to, or after work, I'm eating a lot. And we don't end up talking about the food. We end up like, what's going on? It's work stress, or it's these other things that we can't deal with. Or I always felt like I had to clean my plate. I don't want to waste food. So I feel like I need to finish it. So a lot of times it really goes a lot deeper. But I think as someone who maybe is struggling with eating more than they want or eating sugary things, like you're just looking and you're just focused on that. But you have to go to that deeper level to really be able to heal, to be able to change those patterns in your brain, because our neural pathways just get stronger in our brain for what we do. So the more we reach for that sugar when we're feeling alone, the stronger that pathway is going to get. And it really takes a lot to step back and to change those patterns. And we can't have that shame or that guilt when we're doing that. And a lot of times people just can't see that.
Yeah, so true.
And so tell us a little bit more about the blue zones and sort of what people can take away from that to bring into their own lives or their own family living here in America.
Yeah. So blue zones, I don't remember what the guy's name was, but he went out to study different areas of the world where people often live to be 100 and they're healthy. So he's like, what are these people doing? So there's several pillars within blue zones. I named some of them, like living in community, living with purpose, eating real food. So not necessarily doing CrossFit and pushing your body to the max, but just staying active. And again, they just live as healthy being part of their norm. And so there was an initiative taken after this guy went and it might have been a group of people. They went and studied blue zones to start creating blue zones here in the United States. And so some of that comes down to what's available. So in areas where there's low socioeconomic status, and it can be more challenging when there's a bunch of fast food restaurants around. But I think in your own home, it's like, what do you have setting out on your counter? Do you have a bowl full of fruit, or do you have a box of donuts? When you open your pantry, is it easy to pick out the healthy choices? Do you have food cut up so that it's easy and accessible? Maybe you need to create a gym at home, or get outside with your family to go walking and do things that are just normal. Create a new normal for your family where it's just really easy. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my family, my husband's family is very different. My family is a lot more active. We eat healthy, and his family is just sort of typical American. So we live far away from our family right now. But when we go to his family, that is just like not the culture to move or to eat healthy. But with my family, that's so much easier. We can think of, what do we want our family, like, so me, my husband, and my kids to be, and how can I incorporate that? Because that impacts them. Just like it impacts us when we go to my family's house, and everything's so much easier to be healthier, and we can start to change that culture within ourselves.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to bring up one other topic, insulin resistance, because I talk about that sometimes on my podcast. And I think, especially as we're thinking about obesity and women over 40, even as we're thinking about kids. So tell us a little bit on your thoughts on insulin resistance and prevention.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to consider is that, the way that you fuel your body over time matters. And so your pancreas, you need to love your pancreas, right? And so if you're constantly fueling your body with food that's making your pancreas work really hard, then the whole process of insulin, taking glucose, it becomes less effective. And so I think like the simplest way to think about this is to continue to fuel your body that's gentle on your pancreas, which would be like if you're going to have foods that are carbohydrate rich, like include a complex carb that has fiber. So like having starchy vegetables or sweet potatoes instead of having the donut, right? I love donuts. I think they're delicious. But if I am considering like how I can be gentle to my body and keeping all my organs functioning well, I think having high protein, and then when you're having carbohydrates, make sure that they're complex carbohydrate, whole food, quinoa, oats, like things like that are going to allow your system to work better.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you said love your pancreas. And I've talked about in here, just so people who don't know, our pancreas is what pumps out that insulin to lower our blood sugar. So our blood sugar regulation is coming from the pancreas. So we have to love it. I've also listened to Dr. Amen. He's really into brain health. And he says, like, you have to love your brain. And it's the same thing even with like blood sugar regulation for our brain health too. So we really have to love our bodies, love our organs, love our brain. And some people really have a hard time doing that. And it goes back to working on those deeper wounds to come to that place where you have more self-love for yourself so you can live that out and really care for your body.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah. And so anything else that you want to share before we hop off?
Yeah, I think that it's good to remember that no matter where you're at right now in your journey, it's never too late to take back your health. I have one client in particular. She started working with me 3 years ago and she's lost 100 pounds. And she could have said that this is just who I am. I've seen women in their 60s who have never lifted weights just start, and your body is resilient and can get back to feeling its best a lot quicker than you think. So getting some inertia going, meet up with a friend, get some accountability, and just start and get curious about what could happen if you just take these steps. What could happen in a month, in a year, in 5 years, and it will be so worth it.
Yeah, I love that. And it puts us back into that empowering spot with our health, which is where we need to be to make the changes that we need to make.
Definitely.
And so, Kelsey, tell us a little bit about what you do when you're working with clients and where people can find you.
Sure. So I have a podcast called Kingdom Fit Moms. That's my favorite place to hang out. I'm also on Instagram at Kelsey Wickenhauser. And I have a couple different ways that I work with my students. So I have a course called Fit Moms Accelerator that really walks you through how to invite Christ into your weight loss journey and heal from a lot of the wounds like we've talked about and simplify real food. And then I also take one-on-one clients in Fit Moms Academy. So you can find that information on my website, kelseywickenhauser.com, or just send me a DM and say hello.
All right. And I'll have all those links down below. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.